day, everybody!
Atlus has moved from strength to strength so far this year. Earlier this year, we had the remake of Persona 3. Later this month, at the time of recording, we've got the definitive edition of Shin Megami Tensei V releasing. Plus, we're getting a new cornerstone franchise with Metaphor ReFantazio on October 11th. It was recently revealed Atlus is going to be a partner at Summer Games Fest. You know what that means, right? It means we're likely going to see some more content for Metaphor, which will be cool and all, but it means Atlus will have a few games to announce. It's rare that developers and publishers attend these events just to show off already announced upcoming games, especially when they're high-profile companies like Atlus is. So let's break down what I feel will be shown off and announced. If you think Atlus is going to announce something huge during Summer Game Fest, hit the subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Let's start with the obvious. Atlus is going to show off more of Metaphor ReFantazio. We already got a fairly meaty showcase not long ago. However, since the release is going to be a lot closer and Summer Game Fest is an event where the normies hang out, Atlus will want to leverage that to bring the game to the attention of people who might not have bought it under normal circumstances. In a lot of ways, Summer Game Fest has become a mini E3, something I'm sad I never got to attend, as that was on my bucket list. Oh well, I guess that's why you shouldn't make bucket lists. That way, when something doesn't come to pass, you won't be disappointed. But that's beside the point. Atlus is likely to show off stuff we've yet to see regarding Metaphor. I think we'll more than likely see a new archetype or two, a new area to explore, and maybe something related to the Gauntlet Runner. Of course, they won't want to show off too much, since they'll want to leave a lot of things for the players to discover themselves. While this is the likeliest thing to happen during Atlus's time at the event, I don't think they'll focus too much on it. Speaking of something else I don't think Atlus will dwell too much on, will be a showcase of the Persona 3 Reload DLC Episode Aigis, which for those who don't know is part of the Season Pass. It also details the events found during Persona 3 Fest, otherwise known as The Answer. A lot of Persona fans were really upset when Atlus said the events of The Answer wouldn't be included in Persona 3 Reload. I previously said we'd get Persona 3 Reload Fest, so I was sort of right. However, unlike how Atlus typically do things, it's not via yet another re-release. Though I wouldn't be surprised if Atlus was to re-release Reload after the Game Awards as a Game of the Year edition, and have that one include the Season Pass. But either way, we know it's coming later this year, and Atlus is going to want to advertise that fact. In doing so, I wouldn't be surprised if they give us a release date for the DLC as well. Just like whatever they show off for Metaphor, it's not worth appearing just for Episode Aigis and some Metaphor content. So they're clearly going to have more than that to showcase. If Atlus wants to make the showcase really pop off, they'll finally announce Persona 6, which we know thanks to leakers like Midori and a few others, that it'll release sometime next year. However, I don't think we're too likely to see Persona 6 this early. I think we're far more likely to see it during a PlayStation State of Play or Showcase, or even during the Game Awards. Those times just make more sense when you think about it. I know someone's gonna call me a Sony pony in the comments, but fuck it. Let me point out why a Showcase or State of Play makes more sense for this announcement. While Persona 3 Reload was announced during an Xbox showcase, and Metaphor first shown off during that same showcase, Persona as a brand is intrinsically linked to PlayStation at this point in time. The whole reason Persona is as popular as it is now is thanks to the games being sold as must-play games on PlayStation systems. Before Persona 3, the Persona games were basically baby's first SMT, and yes, I'm working on a video detailing why that was maybe one of the best things to ever happen to JRPGs, so subscribe if that video interests you. But Persona 3 was literally the point where Persona as a franchise began forging its own identity, and not just one bearing a faint resemblance to its parent series. It was also the point where the Persona series started to gain more mainstream popularity. This shift towards the more mainstream continued with Persona 4, which, until Persona 5's release, was widely considered the best in the franchise. Persona 5 was when the series really started to enter public consciousness, fitting really since public perception was one of the core themes of the 5th game. Anyways, while it's true mainline Persona titles are now multi-platform, I don't think they'll be multi-platform at launch unless they're remakes like Persona 3 Reload and the upcoming Persona 4 remake. So Persona 6 makes a lot of sense for Atlus if they still have a strong working relationship with PlayStation. Also, they'll more than likely make more money by releasing the game as an exclusive first, then having it go multi-platform in about 2 years. That's partially because Sony would likely pay a boatload of cash for the timed exclusivity, which Atlus can then put into the development of Persona 6, meaning they spend less of their own money developing the title. Then they'll make the PlayStation 5 sales, followed by the future multi-platform sales. Third-party exclusivity still matters, people. I have a video on that topic that should already be live by the time this video goes out. If that's the case, a card will be on screen now for you to check that video out. So I've covered why it might make sense for them to announce it at a PlayStation Showcase or State of Play. But what about the Game Awards? Well, considering that's the time where the most eyes are going to be watching, it just makes too much sense. At this point, Persona is an established IP. Even hyper-casual gamers are starting to know about the brand. What better way to drive more of the unwashed masses towards your game than announce it during the biggest event in gaming? So no, I don't think it's too likely we see Persona 6 at Summer Game Fest, since it doesn't feel like the right time to announce it. But I would be pleasantly surprised if they did do so. If it happens, it's just going to be a teaser trailer. I think Atlus will announce this project at some point after September. So what else do I think could be announced? I think we're going to see multiple SMT projects announced, albeit I think they're going to be remasters and remakes of much older SMT games. This is mostly thanks to some of the chatter from Midori, since she has covered Atlus are remastering and remaking some PS2-era titles. Most of those would have to be SMT games at this point, since there are a lot of Mega 10 games unavailable on modern hardware. There's also the fact there aren't a lot of PS2-era games left to pick from. So I think it's probable we see at least a few of the Digital Devil Saga games remastered. Now that's exclusively looking at the PS2-era stuff. I also think it's a possibility we see Atlus show off Shin Megami Tensei IV and its sequel Apocalypse. A lot of Atlus fans have been requesting Atlus to remaster these games, or at least port them onto the Switch, since they were 3DS exclusives originally. I think it's very likely we see at least a few SMT projects announced. Even if they're just remasters, since the franchise is now more popular than it ever was, mostly thanks to how well SMT 5 sold on the Switch. With SMT 5 Vengeance just over the horizon, the series is really set to break out of just a hardcore and niche JRPG. So releasing some of the older projects fans have wanted for a long time on modern hardware just makes sense. But which SMT game would you like to see get the remaster or porting treatment? Let me know in the comments section. With the Persona games at an all-time high in terms of popularity, it just makes sense for Atlus to re-release some of the Persona spin-offs, which were previously trapped in 3DS hell. I personally know tons of Persona fans who'd love to play the Q games, but can't because the DS shop is now dead and the cost of acquiring these games physically is now absurdly expensive thanks to no-life scalpers who are too lazy to get real jobs.
Tell me when I'm telling lies!
Also, it isn't like Atlus benefits from those scalpers. That's money they're losing out on. So a re-release is actually more consumer-friendly than things currently are. So from that standpoint, a Persona Q collection might be worthwhile. Also, since those games are fairly well liked and did sell decently well, it wouldn't surprise me if Atlus releases a Persona Q3. There is one potential problem with remastering the Q games though, considering they were designed with the 3DS's second screen in mind. Then again, that might not be much of an issue, since Atlus did remaster the Etrian Odyssey games for Switch and PC. So if these remasters happen, they'll probably do something akin to that. I just know I'd like to see the Q games on more platforms so I actually have a shot at playing them for a reasonable cost. It has long been speculated that there's a new Persona fighting game in the works. I definitely think an arena game for Persona 5 is in the works. Look at how well Persona 4 and Persona 4 Ultimax sold. Now imagine that, but with the Persona 5 cast. That would sell even better. considering the Phantom Thieves are the most popular team from the franchise. I've covered in a previous video my thoughts on a Persona 5 fighter. Click the card on the screen now if that interests you. But I don't think that's the only potential spin-off we're going to see for Persona games. I think there's a very real possibility we see Atlus announcing more of them in the near future. Hey, maybe we'll see a Persona 3 Tactica game, since we already have the framework thanks to Persona 5 Tactica. I will be reviewing that game later this year, but if this video gets to 25 likes, I'll get to working on that sooner rather than later. So hit the like button if you want to see that video. There were also rumors of a Persona party game featuring all of the protagonists from previous entries. However, rumors have also stated this game is probably dead in the water. If I'm being honest, I think that's for the best, as I just don't think Persona translates all that well to a party game. But I am interested in whatever types of games you'd like to see in a Persona spin-off. I actually think a Persona shmup has some potential. It'd probably look a lot like 2022's cult classic Yuru Kill: The Culmination Games. It was a combination of visual novel and shoot 'em up. That's actually going to be my first ever shoot 'em up game, so I'm pretty excited to give it a try in the near future. But please comment what you'd like to see Atlus do as a Persona spin-off. I think there's a possibility we see some other things from Atlus, but I think these are the most likely games we see shown off and announced. There's also a possibility we see a few surprises, since they have the rights to Radiant Historia. They could also announce a sequel to Tokyo Mirage Sessions. However, I feel like those will likely be announced, if at all, during a Nintendo Direct of some type. They'll also probably show off some stuff related to SMT5 Vengeance, since that should be out by the time Summer Game Fest happens, or just a little bit afterwards. But those things don't fit neatly into what I think will happen, and I don't have strong enough reasons to make them their own separate entries. Thanks go out to my current channel members, R. Campbell and Danny Boy. If you'd like exclusive content, shoutouts at the end of videos, and early access to content, you can do so by hitting the join button or the link in the description. Want more of my Atlus videos? Then check out my essay on if Persona 6 should be a dark game or not. Until next time, keep blazing that trail.